Have you ever been there? You're standing at one of those huge life crossroads. Maybe it's a marriage proposal, a big career change, or even thinking about picking up everything and moving to a new country. And your brain just freezes, completely short circuits. You've got all the information, right? Pros and cons lists taller than you are, but you just cannot seem to make the final move. Can't sign the form, can't even click send.
Oh, yeah, it's that total mental gridlock. A kind of inertia, really.
Yeah.
And it's way more common than people think.
Yeah.
We actually looked at a case like this for today's deep dive. Sarah, she's 34, and she's been stuck for years just agonizing over whether to migrate or stay put.
Right, and she described it so well, said she's terrified of failing if she goes. But staying where she is feels like suffocating. It's awful. So what happens? She just keeps making the same lists over and over. Trapped, basically. No conclusion.
Exactly, that constant anxiety loop. That's what we're diving into today.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission here is to really unpack the psychological stuff behind this decision paralysis. We need to see the mental traps we fall into. And then this is key, give you some solid practical ways to build confidence and actually make a choice.
Okay, let's get into it. Because, it's easy to judge. We think people who can't decide are maybe lazy or just disorganized. But the sources we looked at suggest something, well, much deeper is going on. It's not about laziness at all.
Yeah, we absolutely have to move past blaming ourselves or others, difficulty deciding. It's hardly ever about a lack of willpower or information. Our analysis really points to deep psychological factors.
Yeah.
And they usually circle around two main things: feeling insecure, deep down, and this really powerful fear of being judged.
So it's less about the choices themselves, like option A versus option B, and more about the person looking at the choices, their internal state. So if insecurity is a big part of it, what are some of the main root causes the research points to?
Well, one of the really strong predictors seems to be having an insecure attachment style. So if growing up, you often felt rejected, or maybe your parents were overly controlling, you kind of learn this lesson subconsciously, making your own decisions. That leads to trouble or criticism or just bad feelings. It almost programs you to think the safest option is, well, no option, just stay put.
And that ties right into the fear of mistakes, doesn't it? If every little slip-up as a kid was treated like a major catastrophe, then your subconscious learned mistake equals danger, a big flashing red light. So choosing a career path or a partner, it feels like walking a tightrope over a canyon.
It absolutely does. And tied closely with that is something called low self-efficacy. This one's interesting. It's not just doubting you're making the right choice. It's doubting your own ability to actually handle what happens after you make the choice.
Wait, hang on. How is that different from just being pessimistic, like thinking things will go wrong anyway?
That's a really good question. It's about you. Low self-efficacy is the belief that even if you somehow pick the right path, say, you take that new job chase-ship, you won't be able to cope. You think you won't handle the pressure, or you won't make friends in the new city, or you'll mess up the logistics. It's a lack of faith in your own capability to execute, even if the decision itself was sound.
Okay, I get that distinction now. Yeah, that would definitely paralyze you from following through. And then, of course, there's the old classic, perfectionism.
Ah, yes, the hunt for the mythical perfect choice.
Yeah, but life, it just doesn't work like that. It's all about trade-offs. And constantly searching for that flawless, guaranteed best outcome, it usually means you do absolutely nothing. So all these things, the insecurity, the fear of judgment, needing perfection, it's like carrying around old baggage that makes any present-day choice feel terrifyingly high stakes.
Which leads us right to the next point.
Okay.
Once we see where this comes from, how does it actually look when we're in the middle of trying to decide something? What are these mental traps we keep falling into? Right. And first, we need a clear line between two things: healthy reflection and paralyzing doubt. Healthy reflection is, you think things through consciously, you review your options, and then you act.
Mm-hmm.
Paralyzing doubt, that's different. It's that endless cycle of overthinking going round and round, but with no action. And it always comes with this background hum of anxiety. People stuck in that often say things like, I just need to be more sure, or I need more clarity first. They think certainty has to come before they can move.
And wanting that absolute certainty, that leads straight into analysis paralysis, doesn't it? That's where you just drown in research. Gathering more and more data, telling yourself you're not quite ready yet. I mean, I've definitely done that. Pretty sure I still have spreadsheets comparing different brands of, blenders from years ago.
Huh. Yes. It feels productive, right? Like you're doing something. But really, it's often a way to avoid taking the actual risk. And this connects to a really big cognitive mistake the sources talk about, the effective forecasting error.
Okay, effective forecasting error. Sounds a bit technical. What did that mean for someone, say, trying to decide whether to take a new job?
It basically means we're surprisingly bad at predicting how we'll feel in the future. Really bad, actually.
Hmm.
We tend to dramatically overestimate how awful a negative outcome will feel like, the shame if you get laid off or if a project fails. And at the same time, we underestimate the positive feelings a new choice might bring, like how good it might feel to succeed or just the relief of trying something new.
So it's not just that our predictions are off. We predict with this massive negativity bias. We obsess about the 10% chance of disaster and totally ignore the 90% chance it might actually be okay or even great.
That's exactly it. And because that imagined negative outcome feels so huge and scary, we often just default to doing nothing, which is the status quo bias. We just stick with what we know, even if it's not great. That bad job, the okay but not great relationship. Why? Because, well, at least I know what the problems are here.
Yeah, familiarity feels safer, even if it's miserable. Comfort over potential happiness. That's tragic, really. And the last trap you mentioned, the really frustrating one, is the sunk cost fallacy.
Yes. This is when you keep pouring energy, time, or money into something that's clearly not working. Just because you've already invested so much, you hear it all the time. I put 5 years into this relationship. I can't just leave now. Even if they're deeply unhappy, you're basically throwing good future effort after bad past decisions. It makes no logical sense, but emotionally, it's powerful.
We saw this play out with that example of John, didn't we? The 29-year-old engineer, stuck between his stable, well-paying job and taking the leap to start his own company. Kept tweaking his business plan for months, maybe years, but never actually sent it to anyone, never took the plunge.
Yeah, and his issue wasn't really fear of the business failing financially. That wasn't the core thing. It was learned perfectionism. His dad apparently had this mantra, be the best or don't bother.
Hmm.
So John's biggest fear, the thing paralyzing him, was judgment. He was terrified of people saying, see, told you it wouldn't work if the startup wasn't an immediate, massive success. He was caught by the sunk cost of his engineering career and paralyzed by predicting how much shame he'd feel. Classic effective forecasting error combined with perfectionism.
Wow. Seeing how all those traps connect is
Yeah.
really eye-opening. But okay, let's shift gears. Because all this inaction, this endless delay, it's not free, is it? There's a real cost to just standing still.
This is probably one of the most crucial points. Delaying your decision, that is a decision. It's an active choice. You're choosing inertia. And the consequences of just letting things drift, they can be really severe.
Okay, what are some of those costs? First, there's the hit to your own self-image, right? Chronic self-blame. Every time you put it off, you kind of tell yourself, I can't handle this. It chips away at your confidence, makes the next decision feel even harder. It's a downward spiral.
Definitely. Then there's the straightforward opportunity loss. It's tangible. While you're stuck debating option A versus option B, maybe that perfect job gets filled. Maybe that person you connect with moves on. Opportunities don't just wait around forever. The world keeps moving, even if you're stuck.
Plus, just the sheer exhaustion of it all, the mental burnout, that constant worrying in your head, the anxiety, going over the same points again and again, but with no actual progress, it's incredibly draining. You're burning all this emotional energy for absolutely zero return. It's exhausting and, frankly, depressing.
It really is. And finally, there's an external cost, too. The loss of others' trust. Think about it. If people around you, colleagues, partners, friends, see you constantly wavering, unable to commit, over time, their confidence in your ability to follow through, well, it starts to erode. They might see you as unreliable or unstable. So yeah, the cost of staying stuck is almost always higher than the potential cost of making a wrong move and learning from it.
Right. Understanding that cost is a huge motivator. But okay, knowing the problem isn't enough. What tools, what practical techniques did the sources offer to actually break out of this, to build back that confidence?
So the goal here is really twofold. One, get some perspective, step back from the immediate emotion. Two, lower the perceived stakes of the decision itself. Make it feel less like life or death.
Okay, let's start with one that helps with perspective. It's called the 10-10-10 technique.
Right. This one forces you to kind of zoom out mentally.
Wow.
You actively imagine how you'll feel about the decision or the outcome of the decision at 3 different points in time. 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, and 10 years from now. It really disrupts that immediate anxiety. The potential embarrassment you're worried about if you try something and stumble. Will you even remember it in 10 months? Probably not. That big career change you're agonizing over. How might that look in 10 years? It can completely reshape your life for the better. It shifts the focus.
I like that. It helps counteract that effective forecasting error we talked about by forcing a longer view. Okay, what about the classic pros and cons list? Is there a better way to do that?
Yes, there's a refined version that focuses more on the framing. It's subtle but powerful. Instead of just listing pros and cons for choosing option A, you make two columns. Column 1, what do I gain by saying yes to this option? Column 2, what do I lose by saying no to this option? See the difference. It forces you to really confront the cost of inaction. What will Sarah, our example earlier, lose by saying no to migration again? Maybe another 5 years feeling trapped. Suddenly, framing it that way makes saying yes seem less scary, potentially more necessary.
That's a clever reframe. It highlights the cost of the status quo. And for tackling that low self-efficacy, the feeling that you can't handle it, one of the best tools seems to be trial decisions, like a test run.
Exactly. Small steps. Low-risk experiments. This is what really helped John, the engineer we mentioned. Before he quit his high-paying job entirely, what did he do? He built a simple MVP, a minimum viable product. Just a basic, testable version of his startup idea. He put it out there quietly. The point wasn't even necessarily for the product to be a huge hit immediately. It was for him to prove to himself, hey, I can actually build this. I can execute.
Yeah.
It built his confidence in his own ability.
Right. And for Sarah, with the migration decision, a trial could be what? Taking a sabbatical,
Wow.
maybe 3 months unpaid leave, go live in the potential city or country temporarily, experience it firsthand, before making irreversible moves like selling her house or quitting her job for good. It's about getting real data through action.
Precisely. Movement generates information. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. And then for those moments when you're really stuck, just spinning, the sources suggest trying the first feeling technique, checking in with your gut.
Okay, how does that work when you're in the thick of it?
You pause. You think about one of your options, really visualize it, and just notice what's the very first immediate sensation or emotion that comes up in that split second before your analytical brain jumps in with all the doubts and worries. Often, the choice that aligns better with you subconsciously brings a tiny flicker of calm or relief or maybe even quiet excitement, even if it also feels scary. That initial gut feeling, it's often your intuition trying to guide you before the overthinking drowns it out.
Yeah, that's a great tool for cutting through the noise. Okay, fantastic. So these techniques help with specific decisions, but how do we build the overall decision-making muscle so this gets easier over time? The sources had a cool idea for this, the 7-day challenge.
Yeah, this is all about building momentum through small wins, retraining your brain to see choosing as normal, not terrifying. The idea is simple. Make one small, intentional, slightly novel decision each day for a week, gradually increasing the stakes just a tiny bit.
Okay, so like day 1, order something completely new off the menu at your usual lunch spot. Just break the routine. Day 2, take a different route to work, or walk down a street you've never explored before. Simple, zero-risk changes.
Exactly. Day 3, maybe call up a friend you haven't spoken to in ages, or try out a new hobby for just an hour. Something that pushes you slightly out of your comfort zone, but where failure is basically impossible or meaningless. It counters that status quo bias gently.
And you just keep doing these small, deliberate choices each day until day 7. And then you make a slightly bigger, but still manageable decision. Like maybe finally signing up for that online class you've been thinking about, or sending out one updated resume, or booking a consultation you've been putting off. Just 7 days of practice building that feeling of, I can choose.
That's the core idea. Because the big takeaway from all this is really quite simple. Life doesn't pause while you deliberate. Clarity doesn't magically appear before you act. Clarity comes from acting, from moving. No choice is guaranteed safe, of course, but every conscious step you take, even a small trial run, teaches you something and moves you closer to where you want to be. And always remember that fundamental point. Not choosing is still a choice. And it's usually the choice to stay stuck or lose out.
That's such a powerful reframe. It puts the ownership back on us. And it really fits with that quote the sources highlighted, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Exactly. It gets right through the passivity that paralysis feeds on. You have to create the future you want.
So we want to leave you, the listener, with a final challenge today, a question to think about. If right now you absolutely had to make just one of those big decisions you're wrestling with, maybe it's about marriage or your career or moving, which one would it be? And then ask yourself, what's really truly holding you back from taking just one small step forward using one of these techniques? Maybe just take a moment after this, write it down. Because sometimes that simple act, making it concrete, putting it on paper, that tiny bit of movement, that can be the very start of finally deciding.